Welcome back to the Modern Insurance Agents podcast. Today's guests started with just 1,000 each and a big idea and turned it into a multi-seven-figure business, helping insurance agents scale smarter. Welcome to the Modern Insurance Agent podcast.
We're your hosts, David and Al Denning.
What happens when a millennial couple dives headfirst into the insurance world, scales $1 million remote business, and decides to share the journey with the world?
You get the Modern Insurance Agent.
Here, we reveal the messy, magical, and sometimes hilarious realities of building a business and a life you love.
From traveling the globe to building remote teams. Yes, even working remotely on top of a mountain in the Philippines. We're sharing insights, strategies, and plenty of laughs to help agents and entrepreneurs succeed.
Because, let's face it, success isn't just about hitting numbers.
It's about designing a life that works for you.
So let's dive in and build something extraordinary together. So Julian and Timothy are the top minds behind advanced agent marketing, and they've helped thousands of agents turn cold outreach into hot inbound leads, and they're using AI and content to do it. So we're diving into what's working now and what's coming next. But first, agents can get all the show notes, resources, everything put together for you guys. Just go to jumpstartgonow.com/podcast. And we'll make sure to get you everything from what we dive into today. So welcome to the podcast, Julian and Tim. Tell us a little bit about yourself and advanced agent marketing.
Cool. Thanks for having us, David. Gosh, man, I got to get my intro game looking like yours. That was amazing. Super awesome. The trailer was cool. But yeah, I mean, just a quick little backstory. We got into the business when we were 20 years old, right after COVID hit. Tim's a year younger than me, so I think he was 20, I was 21, something like that. We were just super green, had no clue what we were doing. I accidentally recruited him into the business, and they had me train him despite the fact that I was my first 2 weeks selling. We had absolutely no clue what we were doing. It was the blind leading the blind. And we were selling a bunch of policies, just running and gunning door to door, 6-7 days a week for about a year, and came up, looked at the tax returns, and we were like, oh my gosh, this makes no sense. What have we been doing? And it boiled down to the fact that we were working in a system that wasn't set up for success in terms of the marketing. We were talking to people who had no clue what it was. I would go to houses that had been demolished. I would show up, and there were oftentimes, I remember this one guy, he pointed to a little stick in his yard, and he was like, yeah, that's where the lead is. And it was a buried person, like a grave in the front yard. I closed that guy on a Mutual of Omaha policy, and he was 30. But the point being is we were having to turn, water into wine. And we just, Tim was like, dude, there's got to be a better way. So that's kind of how our journey started.
I love that. First off, how do you accidentally recruit someone? I'd love to hear how that happened.
Tim, you can tell him, because I don't even think I was trying to recruit you. You can tell him how you kind of fell into it.
Julian is totally lying. He was 100% trying to recruit me, but he basically, we were hanging out in my basement, and he talks about what he's getting into, and I was like, that sounds interesting. What does that look like? And that's kind of what it was. He basically just told me, hey, I'm going to get into this opportunity. And I was like, that sounds interesting. But, he had definitely planned that out days in advance, plotted out exactly what he was going to say. It was 100% calculated, but he claims it was accidental.
He had the air conditioning set to a certain temperature, everything, had you sweating I just got to say
exactly.
Yes here, right?
Picked out the outfit beforehand.
Lights were down low.
Stripped down everything. He had practiced that close in the mirror 1,000 times, right? So no, I love it, guys. And I think a lot of agents can relate to that, right? Hey, we're running and gunning. We maybe, are just kind of blind leading blind, or just kind of operating. And even if we're doing what we think is really well, sometimes it's not reflecting back on, where we think we should be at that point, especially when we feel like we're crushing it. Why is maybe the income not matching up, or turning water out of wine, right? I think a lot of people have had the dialing, and even more so when you're going in person and they're not even there, or they've passed away. That's pretty tough to convert, although Julian converting it anyways, right? So I love it. So take me a little bit at that point. So that's up to the point where you kind of realized, hey, something needs to change. We need to do something differently and have a goal and kind of envision a future for that. And you guys started with about $1,000 each on that side. Take us back to that. What were you seeing in the industry that made you want to do things differently, and what kind of led to the changes you guys made?
Yeah, so I'll say like initially, the opportunity that we really saw was it was more on the Medicare side, to be honest. Like when we first were gonna go leave, because we had gotten into the business originally, we were selling like final expense in Medicare, and I saw like the huge benefit of the whole, the renewal base with Medicare. So what we were gonna do is essentially we were gonna create like a personal brand. It was called Medicare Mastered. There's like 3 YouTube videos on this channel. I think they're all privated now because we were scared we were going to get shut down by CMS, which is a totally illogical fear. But basically, we made like 3 YouTube videos talking about like the things that seniors would need to know about their Medicare plans. And the whole idea was essentially to have like this YouTube channel where we were giving people value, explaining how Medicare plans work, and then also run paid ads, right? For anyone that has not ever experienced like the beautiful combo of organic plus paid ads, there is no better way to print money other than breaking into the Federal Reserve. So we were essentially going to have a YouTube channel that kind of educated people on Medicare and then run ads to do like online seminars about Medicare. And this is this whole plan we put together. We're going to blow up this big company called Medicare Mastered. And all of a sudden, when we decided to lead the IMO, they held our contracts, and we were not going to be able to sell Medicare until 12 months later. So that dream completely died, dead on arrival. And so at that point, we said, like, cool, what else can we do? So for about like a month and a half, we kind of just messed around, did random things. We tried to start an e-commerce store, a ton, just looking for opportunities. And I remember stumbling upon a YouTube video, seeing some guy that was basically like teaching other people how to generate leads. And I remember no shade on the guy by any means, but I remember hearing him and I was like, I know more about Facebook ads than this guy does, because I had a previous background in, e-commerce in the past. So it's like, imagine if we just basically solved the whole lead problem for the insurance industry, because obviously this is a massive problem because we were on the receiving end of it when we were agents. And so we kind of set out on figuring out how to do that. So we essentially studied, did a ton of research, invested a lot of money into courses and marketing programs and all kinds of things. And we started testing and figuring out different things. And eventually we kind of, it's been a process over the last 3 years of making it better and better. But at that time, we had at least cracked the code on something that was 10 times better than what everyone else was doing. And so we started teaching people about our process, and it kind of just grew from there. But it really came out of like, initially we were going to start our own agency, and then we didn't have that opportunity anymore. And so it was, okay, cool, we got to figure out something in the meantime. And then the something in the meantime ended up taking off.
I love that you adjusted to that rather than robbing the Federal Reserve. Or I don't know, did you guys put plans into that as a secondary option? So
no options there.
Plead the fifth on that.
Yeah, we pleaded the fifth. I cannot.
Julian couldn't fit through the vents. He hit the gym a little too much. Yeah. So
exactly.
So did you ever imagine that it would scale to a multi-7-figure brand and as fast as it did?
I think
I'll speak for
said no.
Yeah, I'll correct. I'll speak for myself, dude. But I thought it was going to be bigger than it is now.
Yeah,
I thought we'd already be doing like 8 or 9 figures a year, and I'm like, I'm over here focused on the business, and I'm like, reflecting every day of like, what do I not know yet that is necessary for me to get there? That's pretty much the way that I look at it. But yeah, I always saw us doing a massive business, building to an 8 or 9 figure a year business. And it was never a question of if, it was just a matter of how and when was more or less the kind of the question for me, or the thought for me, I guess.
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, like, we didn't have the skill set to do it yet, but to say like, we've always had the goal to do it. And so like, I think there's a lot of people that they like stumble their way into success, and they're like, I never imagined I would do this. It's like, no, dude, I've been like imagining this for sure and more. And it's just about putting the work in and acquiring the skills necessary to do it. So
yeah, I remember meeting up with you guys and was it out in San Diego and hanging
La
out
Jolla.
as is this being, I don't want to say birthed, but like, seeing what you guys are doing is like, man, this is amazing. And just seeing, what it's turned into has been incredible. What do you think clicked early that helped it gain momentum?
I mean, I think you can't point your finger to one thing, like I think a lot of people, they think that there's just going to be like all of a sudden like one thing just like clicks and then changes their life. Like they think one lead source or one tweak they make is just going to save their entire life and turn their entire business around. But in all reality, like I think if there is any shift and one thing that clicks, it's like the mindset of like, instead of focusing on success, it's focusing on developing yourself and your skill set. So, I mean, like Julian and I have legitimately spent multi six figures in the last 2 years just on courses, masterminds, programs, everything, just to learn and develop. We're constantly reading, constantly, him and I just talk on the phone all the time about what can we be doing better? How can we serve our clients better? How can we make more money and make our agents more money? It's just like, it's a constant process of like developing ourselves and becoming the people that can do the bigger numbers that we want to do, right? It's not about doing the bigger numbers. It's like, how do I develop the skill set and acquire the traits and acquire the knowledge that's going to allow me to do that? So like, if there is any shift for me, I would say that that's what it is. But I mean, I could point to at least 15 different things that have just been massive unlocks. Like I know the one thing that you guys taught us to do was like using Facebook groups, and that blew us up to a certain level. And then it was another thing and then another thing. And it stacks on top of each other. So it would be like, besides that mindset thing, it would be impossible to point to one thing as like, this is the one thing you have to do.
I think you did, though. I mean, I think the thing you pointed to was that we can only rise to our level of competence and knowledge in the next challenge to solve, or thing to learn, which Julian mentioned as well. And we're firm believers in that as well, investing in our, in masterminds, coaching and training and skill sets that we want to raise our business to unlock the next levels as well. And we've seen personally, which I'm sure you guys have seen the same, if not more, of every dollar into that is at least $10 back off of this as well. So I love that continuous development and that mindset around that, because I do think that is what unlocks each additional level, is acquiring these skills that you guys acquired and are now sharing and helping agents with. I mean, Julian, would you say, probably one of the biggest things for agents is continuing to level up their skill sets and learn and treat this as a business versus just a sales position?
100%. I remember when I was selling, I used to literally drive. When I was doing door to door, I used to literally drive around and I would listen to books and podcasts and YouTube videos about sales. I'd be driving 2.5 hours one way to Fayetteville, North Carolina, 2.5 hours back. So 5 hours a day minimum, I was getting educated on how to be a better sales rep. And so like, that was one of the biggest things I would say that really like, I was just able to, outcompete people at a really high level, just as a byproduct of being more competent, because I had spent more time like sharpening the sword versus just swinging it. So yeah, I mean, I would say that's 100% the most valuable thing you can do is become more competent at your field of practice.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a common trait between high performers, right? That we're not a finished product. We're constantly leveling up. We're constantly developing, especially in today's world, of which we'll talk about a little bit later, on fast moving changes to technology with AI and a lot of these shifts that are happening, that we're never going to always know everything at the moment, because by tomorrow it's already even outdated and we're already learning the next thing that we're developing on. So Tim, I'd love you talk a little bit about, some of the biggest problems, you agents face with lead gen that you've seen. Like, how are you guys solving that differently in that approach on your side?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the number one thing, I mean, there's so many things you could point to, but the TLDR, right? Too long didn't read version. I actually didn't know what that acronym meant until like 2 months ago. So
gotta hang out on
too
Reddit
long
for
didn't
one.
read
Yeah.
for anyone that was like me. But like the TLDR version there's two like big problems that I think people are dealing with today. And one is it's increasingly more difficult to get in contact with your leads, right? Like David, you have a business where you guys reach insurance agents. Julian and I also have a business where, we help and work with insurance agents. Part of acquiring clients for our business is calling those people to get them to, jump on a call, work with one of our agent advisors, and then enroll into our program. And the answer rate outbound dialing to insurance agents is like 4 to 5%. Like, it's increasingly more difficult to get a hold of people. And insurance agents know the pain of making dials and not getting in touch with people, and they don't even answer the phone themselves. So it's like that's a major piece. And so I think the big thing is you have to separate yourself from being a telemarketer, because at this point, like, it's an extremely low leverage. We talk about leverage a lot, which is like the more juice per squeeze you can get out of your time, basically. And like, it's a low leverage task to just make outbound dials all day and nobody picks up the phone. And it's also an extremely frustrating daily activity to partake in. And so we look at like, what are some more intelligent or smarter ways in which we can get more people raising their hand and saying that they're interested in what you're selling. So a lot of what we work with nowadays is like people that are doing advanced markets and things like that. The reason why is because like, you can position your marketing and your lead generation around an education process, right? And so this is a little bit like, I said TLDR, but I still got to give you the full context, right? So you position yourself as the expert, so that when people are going through your process, instead of you just being a telemarketer that's like banging their phone, since we got back from that event that you and I went to 3 weeks ago, I've had one phone number call me at least 3 times a week from Grand Prairie, Texas. And I have no idea who it is. And I will never answer the phone because they haven't sent me any text messages and I have no reason to want to speak with them. Right. And so I think that's kind of a lot of what insurance agents are finding themselves on the receiving end of. And so if you can create and shift your marketing to a position and doing it in a way where when the prospects go through, you are now a person that they want to talk to and they are coming to you for help and advice, as opposed to just buying a bunch of leads and then just outbound dialing all day. Again, it all comes down to leverage and how you can get the most done in the same amount of hours. And that's just a much higher leverage way of doing things. So that's the first piece, is like the efficiency of the outbound dialing. The second thing I think people struggle with is like building trust with the prospects. So it's inefficient and it's harder to reach people. And then you also have no trust built. So, if you're just some random person calling somebody out of the blue, or they filled out some random form online that was like half scam, like it basically looked like a scam, or had them opt in to win like a free toaster that also would take them to the Bahamas or whatever. Like, you have no trust built. And so you get all of these objections like, oh, I need to think about it. I need to talk to my advisor. Dave Ramsey said you suck, all this kind of stuff, right? Versus when you position it in a way where they're seeing your face, they're getting educated by you, and you're overcoming the common objections, like using content. By the time you jump on the phone with them, it's more of a consultation than a sale. And it just, it's way easier to close your deal. So I would say those are the 2 biggest things. Julian, anything to add to that?
I love that, taking the approach of actually doing and applying the things of what agents ultimately say they want, right? Like, I want someone who already knows who I am, trusts me, wants to have a conversation, is looking to me as an authority already to solve a solution, even more so if they're reaching out to me, grabbing a time with me, wanting to book with me on that side, which is exactly what you guys are helping them do. Whereas when I ask agents all the time, the question of, hey, do you want a pipeline full of people reaching out to you, seeing you as an authority, and recognizing who you are, and having that rapport with you, that's easier to convert? Or do you want people that filled something out maybe that don't remember it and have no idea who you are and don't want to talk with you? And they always tell me the first one, but then I ask what they're doing every day in their approach, and it's always the second one of all the actions of the low quality. I'm like, why are you doing this thing if you want this thing? And they're like, I don't know. It's like the definition of sanity, doing the same thing, expecting different results. And that's exactly what you guys did. You created different results by taking a different approach, and ultimately what agents say they want. Just don't take that approach to putting that in place. So I love that. And I think something there, you talk about creating these hot leads. Exactly. I don't even say leads, like they're even beyond that, because they know who you are and recognize you, want to talk to you through brand instead of cold leads. And I'd love if you break that down a little bit. But one of the important things I also was going to mention is like a lot of people with these approaches maybe don't come from the insurance world, don't come from having done the sales and recognizing what goes into that. And the reality is, you guys have gone through and sold these same leads. You've taken the same approach. You've proven even internally with yourselves off of this before ever taking this to agents as well. So I'd love, especially Julian, if you talk a little bit about experience, because you've helped place policies with people coming to you from this, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think I've placed a few under you as well. I can't remember. We had like a brief stint for like a good 72 hours at Senior Life before my broker contracts came through, and I got my writing number in like 30 minutes and started slinging policies. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think like, the biggest thing too, to your point, and I can touch on like placing those policies, is that I think a lot of agents, the reason why they're in that cycle of insanity is just because it's easy. Like their upline said, hey, go get these leads. And so they didn't have to think for themselves. They didn't have to like solve a problem. Or like, Tim and I have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars just on education. And, we've got, between us and our clients, we spent millions of dollars on advertising. And not everything was a win. Not everything was a slam dunk every time. And it's very difficult for most people to be able to withstand that level of pressure, that level of pain, and do it for years and years and years to develop a system like the one we have, which is ultimately why people pay us what we're worth to get that solution. But I think that's what it comes down to, right? And so using that as a way to kind of transition into what it's like to place policies using a system like this is, I think a lot of people want like a silver bullet. And one of the things that I learned early on in sales, I've been in sales since I pretty much like was out of high school. And one of the things that I learned early on was like, you just got to be relentless. Like you can just never stop. Like there's deals I've closed that I've followed up with for years. Like there are agents that have been, we've got full-fledged relationships and we've spoken for, 3 years or whatever, and then end up doing business with us later. But like most people treat sales like it's just a transaction because they're looking for the commission. Whereas I'm looking to help someone achieve an outcome. And so when I speak with them and build that relationship, it's just about whether or not they achieve the outcome, whether they pay us or don't. And people just decide to pay me, whether it's buying a policy or working with our company internally. They just decide to work with me more because I'm actually trying to help them get to their outcome. I'm not trying to get the sale. I don't care if you do business with us or don't. I have no desperation for business. And I feel a lot of agents, from what I've seen working with thousands of them, is a lot of them are just like, I just need the sale, need the sale, need the sale. And you see like a lot of the times it's a 6-minute sales call where they go from, hey, is Miss Betty there, to quotes in the first 6 minutes. They barely got any health questions off. And then they're like, dude, she said she was going to call me back and needed to think about it. What the heck is wrong with these leads? But it's because their perception of how to approach the sales process is completely wrong. So hopefully that gives you the context you were looking for.
Absolutely. And I'll always stand by this relational industry over transactional. As I first learned on the agent side, was definitely given a script. It was completely transactional on that side.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, if you hit 5-10% close rate, you're crushing it. And it's like, that doesn't sound right. Like, and it was a lot with the approach, right? And it's like, okay, we're scrapping that. We're taking a relational approach here, of course, right? So I love that, and I love that that's obviously what you guys have pursued and built and help agents with on that side. And I love if essentially, I think would be helpful just a brief overview. What exactly have you guys put in place and are helping agents and the problem you're solving that's just level them up in their business?
Yeah. So like, again, it comes down to just solving those main two problems that we talked about earlier, is like getting more leverage in your time and then building trust with the leads before you speak with them. So essentially what we help people do is brand themselves as an expert and brand themselves as an authority in whatever line that they sell in. Most of what we do right now is for like IUL, annuity. And then we have a few clients that are doing like the infinite banking style of business. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of times working with higher level agents and then also some advisors as well. So essentially it's like we're positioning them as the expert. So we're running ads that they are actually in. So when somebody's scrolling through Facebook, they see your face, you're delivering a message, delivering them value, and then sending them to a training video that you are in, where they're seeing more of your face, getting more familiar with you. And then essentially through a combination of AI and automations and different things that go on in the back end, we have them book appointments on your calendar, send them content in between when they book and when they show up to kind of pre-frame them so that they're ready to buy. And essentially, like, our team helps people implement that entire process. We have different packages, some of them where we do all of it for you, some of it where we're more so like showing you and helping you do it. But I would say that's kind of the main deliverable that we're doing and main thing that we're helping agents with at the moment.
I love it. I love that process of trust, rapport, and authority stacking with them there versus, hey, I saw you real quick, and the next button is fill this out for a quote. That transaction on it. So
or
I love
it's like
training.
They fill out some random form and then you call their phone 100 times until they buy or die.
Yeah, that's most of the industry, and like a lot of things, things change, things adapt, and also consumers have gotten smarter. They've gotten accustomed to getting hit a lot of times. The trust levels have dropped to the lowest ever, and that's where things are shifting, right? And I want to talk about that a little bit on what you guys see as kind of the biggest opportunity for agents to leverage brand over the next year or so. And do you see any of AI playing into that in some way, shapes, or form?
Yeah, Julian, you want to touch on that, or you want me to kind of take this one?
Yeah, sure. I think a lot of what we'll see, and this has kind of happened already. There's been a few great exchanges in history with insurance where, like, it started off as like when insurance companies originally started in the US, they started distributing insurance products through the newspaper. So the newspaper was the big technology at the time, and Benjamin Franklin was actually able to dominate the basically like the homeowners insurance because of people's fear of fires. So he was actually like the first capitalist to take advantage of, in America, the insurance business essentially. And they had it over in Europe at the time, in Britain, and all of that. But he was actually one of the first people to pioneer that here in the U.S. And when you look at the transition over time, but then it went down to insurance agents distributing it. People were going door to door. They were collecting the money before auto draft. Then auto draft, bank drafts got invented, and the newspaper continued to pound around. And then they found the direct mail opportunity, which was a big boom for a solid 30, 40, 50 years, where the insurance business was seeing exponential growth like never before between independent brokers that would go out and broker products door to door. They collect the money, they build a relationship. So they were showing up every month to grab your money, right? Like, it was the deepest relationship. And then it was like the dot-com boom, where the internet came into play. Now you could buy life insurance on the internet. And so, like, what we've seen though is that as time has gone on, the need for the agents is slimming down for how many are needed, but it's about how many are going to be the most leveraged in the future, right? Like, you might need 100,000 agents to go work direct mailer campaigns and go door to door and clear houses to get sales. But if you're running a personal brand and using AI where you can sell, 2, 3, 4 plus policies a day, you don't need millions of agents anymore. You can get by with hundreds, right? And the opportunity is just as big as it's ever been, but that opportunity is exclusively there for people who are looking to invest into what the future is, which is using AI, using automation, using personal brands to basically corner pieces of the market that they relate to, and having a systematic way of acquiring those customers that doesn't require them to go drive 3 hours out, knock on 400 doors, and then come home with nothing to show for it, right? It's just a matter of how much effort they're putting in for how much output they're getting out of it. And that's kind of like where I see the future of the business going in the next 12 months and in the next, even decade and beyond.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I like the way you talked about, I don't think we've like technically verbalized this, but I 100% agree with you. Is like, I think there will be a need for less agents, but I think each of those agents will make a lot more money. It's going to be about agents that are more leveraged, right? Like, David, have you seen the movie Gladiator 2?
So good.
You've seen it?
I need to add it to my list. I love the first one. Haven't checked it out. So if you guys tell me a sequel stacks up to the first one,
It
which
does.
most of the times I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I think it's really good.
So if it does, then I absolutely will check it out.
One
Yeah,
of the
so-
few sequels worth checking out, but it's definitely worth it.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. It was really good. But in the opening scene of that movie, right, the main characters, he's I think it's Numidia or something. It's basically like some colony in northern Africa, and the Romans are coming to take it over. And he's like feeding his chickens or whatever, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, the Romans are coming. And they look out over the ocean and they see these boats just coming towards them full speed ahead. And the way that they're propelling these boats forward to come and attack this village is there's like 40, jacked Roman dudes. Maybe they're slaves. I'm not entirely sure, but they're just like under the boat, pulling the oars manually, like just rowing the boat forward. Right. And so you think about it, that's how boats used to move. Is you would just have like 50 dudes under a boat propelling the boat forward. And that's kind of like, the analogy would be that's what the insurance industry is kind of looking like now, where you have, literally, I think it's like 1 million plus licensed agents to do the production that's getting done and to protect the families that are getting protected. But nowadays, I mean, realistically with autopilot, you don't even need one person for a boat to go anywhere. You just need a motor and a computer to run it. Or one captain steering the ship. And I think it's like the same thing as just over time, technology allows you to get the same done with less humans. And so that's kind of where we're moving with the industry. And so all of those guys that used to row the boats underneath the boat, they're out of a job, they're unemployed. But the one guy who's the captain, who's using the technology and using the leverage, that guy's obviously going a lot further and faster, and he's not having to break his body underneath a boat to propel it forward. So I think that's kind of a good analogy for where the industry is going. I think there's ultimately going to be opportunity for all of the people that are just willing to adapt and stay on top of the trends with technology.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key, right? Adapt and learn. And that's exactly, I think, the common trait with those that are most successful in any industry, but especially in this one. And it's interesting how fast things have shifted and changed since COVID. COVID was kind of like a huge turning point. A lot that we're doing field shifted to phone, realized the world didn't end as they shifted to phone. A lot of people got used to remote and that freedom that came along with that as well. And then, so now there's a shift of like, how can I be more leveraged, have the freedom to either be around my family more or travel even while working, right? Like I know, Timothy, you spent some time over in Thailand. We just got back from working in Mexico for a bit, have agents, work with across the US that, hey, we drive around an RV, pop open the laptop, sell some policies and go hiking. Like the opportunity today that continues to rise for those that learn to be leveraged, learn to have things in place and treat this as a business for developing out teams and systems is huge. And this is even looking at some of the latest acquisitions in this industry of large agencies where the valuations isn't just their book of business, but their systems, their processes, predictable flow of opportunity, social media audiences and events and all these things. And they put all this together. Now the valuation's crazy high. So I love that perspective of learning, growing, adapting, because ultimately, there's going to be people that continue in this industry and do insane amounts of business compared to what probably agents are doing today versus those that are like, well, the old way doesn't work anymore. I don't know what to do. Right. So a lot of stuff has shifted. So, and speaking of stuff, like, I mean, what are some of the things that you've implemented that agents could realistically start doing right now to modernize their business? Some of those shifts and changes you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I would say the very first thing is the amount of people that we still talk to on a daily basis that don't use a CRM and just like call from spreadsheets. Right. So I'd say like one thing Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger talk a lot about are like having checklists. So if there was like a checklist of modernizing your insurance business, the very first thing would be like have a CRM instead of using paper and a spreadsheet. That would be the very first thing that I would tell everybody to do. I think probably a large portion of people that are watching this podcast already have a CRM, but if you don't, now is your wake up call. I'd say like realistically, the next thing is looking at your acquisition system. And so what I mean by that is like, what is the process that it takes for you to get a lead and turn them into a customer. And if that acquisition process is literally just buy lead from vendor, call them, close them, it's time to start looking at potentially leveling that up, you know? One thing that I've seen a lot of success with is just as an agent having clarity on your marketing and what the people are actually seeing. That way you can enter in the conversation that's already being had. So for example, like it blows my mind the amount of people that are out there who are agents and they have no idea what the ad says or what the form looks like that the person is filling out from the lead vendor. It's like within our business, we're consistently and constantly like updating back and forth. Like Julian and I literally talk every single day because I do more of the marketing and he's more on the sales side. We talk every day about, hey, what are you seeing on the calls and what do we need to shift and tweak on the marketing? And so like having that clarity where as the agent, you're working with a vendor or a partner who is like adjusting the advertising based off of what you're seeing and the prospects that you work best with. And then I would say looking at, you know, implementing automations and doing basic things like having drip sequences. I mean, there's so many things we could do that would get more advanced, but just like basic things that you need, having automations that, you know, text your leads, reach out to your leads, emailing them for appointment reminders, text reminders, all those kind of things are like the basic things that I would do first. And then look at, you know, adding on some of the more advanced things like video content and remarketing sequences and all kinds of other stuff that comes into play.
I love that. And using technology to fulfill and solve some of those challenges that were traditionally there. And that's like, Julian, you've worked both the old way and as well as what, you know, referring now as the new way of this. And, you know, you made a good point, Tim, on the disconnect that a lot of agents with not knowing what the ads say, not being even a part of that process, where it's just some info that they're now the person reaching out to, versus keeping that rapport and trust and stacking that throughout the process where there is a connection from what they see, what they fill out, what they book, the person they're talking to who's solving the problem for them is night and day is in my experience. Like Julian, what's that look like from both sides, from both the old way to the new way, as far as the level of, you know, of trust they're already having with you, the ease, you know, how more easily to convert, in maybe even trust for larger deals that way too.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a different conversation. And I learned, I'll say like I learned the hardest possible way. I mean, Tim and I both did, you know, like I remember it was like a regular thing to sell a policy from a lead that had been sent in from 5 or 6 years ago. Like 5 or 6 years, you know, you hear about speed to lead and it's like, dude, you know, that's like not even snail mail. That's like, you know, return to sender, type situation. And I remember selling people that were like literally, I think the oldest one we ever sold was like 14 years old or 12 and a half years old. Something crazy. And you know, it's the difference in conversation quality when you talk to someone immediately or you're able to just get them over the phone versus like doing it in person. It's all the same conversation, right? Like it's just the amount of effort you have to put in to get the sale. And how much effort you have to put in is and how many calls it takes to close the prospect or how many visits or whatever you're, you know, if you're doing face to face or Zoom calls or whatever, is all dependent on how much trust and how much information they need to make a buying decision. And if you have someone, this is why so many people like, this is one of my pet peeves about the industry. I got to rant for like 2 seconds, but it's like everyone screams one call close, one call close, one call close. And it's like, I hear you, but you're broke because you're preaching one call close and you're calling aged mailers and you're only getting the small fraction of the percentage of people that are willing to do business with you because they don't trust you. And so like if you can just get all of that BS out of the way beforehand, if you can just get rid of the whole like, let me call somebody who filled this out 2 years ago. I talked to agents, especially like from some of the big IMOs, like they'll come to me and be like, yeah, dude, like I really want to build a business. I want to build a massive agency. And say, okay, cool. Let's look at your client acquisition system. Like, what is your business plan? And they tell me, oh yeah, I'm just buying leads from this. And I'm like, aren't 92% of the agents that are doing that failing? And they're like, yeah, got it. Do you think that's a like sound business model? Well, no, that's why I'm talking to you guys, right? But it all comes down to like the fact that if you can just get more trust and more information into the clientele's hand before they jump on a sales call with you, that is going to dictate how much of the one call closing is taking place, and then how much of the overall production is going to be able to take place against working in like a broken system.
I love that. And for those listening, we're still emphasizing the importance of having systems and processes, but we're talking about adapting those to make those better and improve those and actually change those over time versus this is the way it's always been, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any of us are negating the amount of that takes hard work and putting the time and effort into growing and scaling things as well. You guys haven't been sitting in your hammocks and sipping on milkshakes the whole time of building and scaling this business, or on the insurance side as well. We know it takes hard work, but we should always be striving of, especially in an industry like this, we're helping people. How do we help more people and more effectively and efficiently to be insured, to have policies in place and the impact that makes? So I love, like, you guys didn't accept the status quo and like, hey, let's make the changes that we want to see and show others how to do that same thing. You guys are absolutely crushing with advanced agent marketing, making that change, making those difference. And what's one thing that surprised you most about working with thousands of agents and being in and around them constantly and consistently? Like, what surprised you from, I think this can actually lead into my another question on agents that crush it from the ones who stay stuck?
I've got a rank on this one, Tim. I don't know if you want to.
Okay, let's
Go
go.
for it.
Let's go.
Rip it.
Dude, the amount of people that say that they want something and don't take the necessary action steps to get there is absolutely mind-boggling. Like I've talked to so many thousands of people that come in to sell insurance and they swear they're going to be the next big thing. I call them a few months later and they still haven't made the first phone call. They still haven't bought or invested in generating their first lead. They haven't invested in a program. And it's like I've even talked to people where they spent a year just changing IMOs, like just changing, not doing anything. Like they're like, oh, I'm going to go to this IMO instead. It's like, dude, have you even gotten through contracting yet? Nah, but I got to get a release. Like I've literally met agents who have gotten declined by carriers and blacklisted by carriers for switching IMOs too many times because they're so shiny objected
Mm-hmm.
into the next big thing. The grass is greener. And that's really what blows my mind, because the agents who succeed at the highest level, excuse me, I've had too much sparkling water today. But Tim and I, like, we had the worst business model in the world. It was terrible. We were doing like 25, 30K per month. Top of the leaderboard, face to face. Granted, we were working 12, 14 hours a day and
Mm-hmm.
6 and 7 days a week, but that wasn't a broken model, you know? And the amount of people that are so worried about trying to fix a model before they even work it when it's already getting results is just mind boggling to me. Because I'm not even going to continue on because I'll just get crazy. But that's what it is for me, man. Like the most successful people commit to something and they just do it for an extended period of time until the job is done.
I'll continue on that one a little bit because I'm with you on that. That getting an extra 5% on a particular carrier is not going to make or break your future multi-7-figure business at the end of the day. Like, we always want better setups, but I don't think a lot of people understand the opportunity cost of like shifting and moving and
Mm-hmm.
always restarting. You never get momentum. You never get anywhere. I've seen people at what some would deem like the worst setups you could have
Oh, yeah.
absolutely crush, knock it out of the park, and get filthy rich while helping people. And why some at what might deem as like the most opportunistic with top training and contracts and all this help support, not do anything of what they need to do to execute to have
Yeah.
the success there. And it really comes down to like wherever you go, there you are. Right. So the factor in all the different situations is yourself. So what are you going to do differently, commit and grow and scale on to end up with that different result? Because nothing's getting handed to you guys, and you guys know this for real, and for who you guys are working with as well. Like, this isn't a silver platter industry, and that's where people find that out very quickly the hard way. But this is an industry that rewards those that have the right mindset, that want to do the things and also continue to learn and adapt. So if an agent came to you guys tomorrow and said, I'm ready to grow, but I'm tired of cold leads, I'm tired of the old way, I'm tired of I want to do the work and I'm happy to, but what do I need to do differently? What's the first thing you tell them to focus on or be able to help them implement in their business?
I would say one is like picking the right people to be around in terms of like, it could be a marketing company, it could be your agency, your IMO, whatever it is, but like picking people that, and when I say the right people, I mean people that have already done what you're trying to do or have done it for other people. I would say that that is probably the most important decision that you can make, is that in terms of, people talk about, I'm pretty sure Warren Buffett says like the most important decision that you can make in business is who you get into business with and what business you go into. Like if you're in the insurance industry, you are in the right business. Now you just need to pick the right people to go into business into. And once you've done that, you need to set literally everything else aside and just focus all of your attention and focus into improving your skill set. Like zero in, horse blinders into how can I become the best in the world at what I'm trying to do. And, in terms of how to do that, that also comes down to getting around the right people and getting the right training, getting the right mentorship. And also like, even if you have a bad mentor, you should be putting in the effort on your own to go and find the information. Like there's dozens and dozens of books that talk about how to sell insurance at a high level. I would buy every single one of them and like skim them, pick out the most important pieces and start implementing it ASAP. So that's what I would say. Like get the big things right and then just focus on your skill set and taking action.
I love that. And not just accepting like, oh, I have a bad mentor, woe is me, like this is the situation I'm dealt. Like find the right mentors, create the right mentors. I know people in their businesses because they value the input and different perspectives, where they've taken ChatGPT, for example, and they've fed it like, from either Cardone or, Socrates or like, Gary Vee or all these different people they value the perspectives on, and they'll give them a situation and say, hey, what would Gary say about this? Or what would he advise on this? Okay, what would Socrates say on this or how he advised on this? And they essentially have almost created their mentors based on these very respected individuals, Warren Buffett, for example, and almost create these mentors and find these mentors, whether it's from these books, trainings, just like you mentioned, Timothy, or others that you do respect, and ultimately like, hey, I want to get to where you got to. How can I, provide value to you to get that help or support, or if I can pay for it, of course, as well. And so I love that. Seeking out, like, we can't be twice as good in the next day, but we can be 1% better every day. And we can strive to stacking that 1% to we're a completely different human and completely different business over time as well. So I love that. Julian, did you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that between picking who you're around and picking who you're going to sell to, those are the two biggest things. Like if I am around a bunch of people who are terrible at business, but I'm selling to the best client base in the world, I can do okay. If I'm with the best people in business selling to the worst clientele in the world, I can do maybe okay. If I'm with the best people in business selling to the best clientele, the world is your oyster. So that's pretty much all I got on that topic.
I love it. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on the Modern Insurance Agents podcast. We're going to have you guys back. We'll dive into more in the future, as well as I know there's a ton of topics we can talk about. But first, where can people follow you guys, plug into what you're doing, and connect with you guys?
I'd say the first place, if you want more content, would be our YouTube channel, Life Insurance Sales on YouTube. So check that out. And then if you want to learn more about working with us, just go to advancedagentmarketing.com. And you can go through. We have a whole video that kind of breaks down our process, what we do, and how we help agents shift into the modern era and implement personal branding and AI.
Love it, guys. And guys, make sure we'll get that included in the show notes and links for everything for you guys. So you can hop in and join them there. Just go to jumpstartgonow.com/podcast, and we'll have that as well as the show notes and everything ready for you guys there as well. Thank you guys once again, Tim and Julian, for taking the time to join us. And we'll see you guys next time on the Modern Insurance Agents Podcast.